opening series of the 2023 season at St. Louis against the Cardinals, dropping 2 out of 3. Let's get into it. Opening day, the Blue Jays got their first and only win of the series with a ridiculous 10-9 affair that seemed to go on forever. We kept hearing all spring about how fast these ball games were going to go with the pitch clock and with all the new rules, and this thing felt like it was about 8 hours long. Don't get me wrong, I didn't really mind it. It was enormously entertaining, and after a whole winter of no baseball, having like 14 hours of baseball was actually kind of fun, but maybe let's not make it a trend, fellas. Mostly that was because neither pitching staff was really able to get anybody out like at all, especially George Springer, who had 5 hits, and most of them were just kind of like little tappers and sprays and balls rolling everywhere and just dropping in. Man, it's better to be lucky than good, especially in baseball. Not a banner day for Alek Manoah or several members of the Blue Jays bullpen. Tim Meza and Jimmy Garcia and Anthony Bass really all had pretty rough outings. Everyone else is pretty good, but those 3... yikes, not a great start. And for Manoah, yeah, there was some stuff that wasn't all that great, but there was also some stuff that was pretty unlucky. I don't think anyone after this game or at all in the universe thinks that Alek Manoah is going to be anything but good or better this season, so best to kind of move on from this and say it was an anomaly. Let's just deal with it, right? Especially because, the team won, so you can be magnanimous a bit, right? Or at least I can. Way too much stuff to talk about in this game. I don't want to get into a play-by-play because that'll be another 45-minute video. Sorry about that for the last one. I really don't know why it was that long. It didn't feel like it. Maybe I was just excited. This one will be shorter, I promise. But there is one important element that I want to talk about, and it was in the bottom of the first inning. I mentioned Manoah got a little bit unlucky. The first run he gave up there was on a Nolan Arenado line drive to the left field, and he hit a ball that was kind of like up near his face. Like this was high and inside, and Arenado somehow got his bat to it and pulled it. I honestly don't know how he did that. It kind of defied logic. That's the kind of pitch that's like, he hit that? Really? So if you're Manoah, there's no lessons to be learned there. You just got super unlucky. You threw a ball at a guy's face and he somehow turned it around. But, just put that in the bin and move on. But on that play, new Blue Jays outfielder Dalton Varsho, who showed out amazingly well in this series, by the way, he makes a very interesting decision as the ball drops in front of him. No one was going to be able to get to that ball in front of him. But the big difference between him in left field and Lourdes Gurriel in left field was immediately manifest right out the chute this season, and I want to talk about it. The ball drops in front of Varsho, and he has a choice. He can either try to throw the runner out at third base or throw the ball into second to keep Arenado from advancing to second and keep the double play in order. Those are his two choices. We'll call them A, the Lourdes Gurriel choice, and B, the Dalton Varsho choice. So the Lourdes Gurriel choice is clearly to try to throw the guy out at third base. He has a reputation, sort of well earned, he had it in 2021 anyway, of being a guy with a cannon for an arm in left field. Super accurate. He made a lot of really great plays in 2020 and 2021 throwing out runners from left field. I think there's no shot here that Lourdes Gurriel wasn't going to try to throw the runner out at third base, trying to go from first to third. So I assume in that case that he probably wasn't going to be successful. That would have been a low percentage throw for anybody, even for Lourdes Gurriel, especially since in 2022 his mysteriously appearing power of having a laser accurate cannon for an arm in left field vanished just as quickly as it appeared in 2022. So I don't think he was going to make that play, but he would have tried. And that's the rub. So, the Lourdes Gurriel option. Lourdes tries to throw out the runner at third and is unsuccessful, allowing Arenado to advance to second. We now have runners at second and third with nobody out. In that scenario, one of Bo Bichette or Whit Merrifield would have had to cover second base to keep the runner close so he couldn't get too much of a lead, so he couldn't score on a single. And because the next hitter, Wilson Contreras, is a right-hander, that means that Bo Bichette probably would have been a little bit further back into the shortstop position, meaning Whit Merrifield probably would have been closer to second base in order to cover the runner. And if Whit Merrifield is closer to second base than what Contreras actually did in this situation, which is a soft line drive to the right side, gets through for a base hit, and 1, possibly 2 runs come in to score, and there's still nobody out in the inning, and who knows what happens after that. But instead, we got the Dalton Varsho play, which was he chose to throw the ball into second base to prevent Arenado from advancing. In this scenario, we now have runners at first and third with 1 out. And because of that choice, Whit Merrifield is at his normal defensive position to the right-hand side from the hitter's perspective of second base, waiting to catch that soft line drive that Wilson Contreras hits right at him. This prevents either runner from advancing, and now there's 2 outs with only 1 run in. So when Tyler O'Neill, the next batter, pops out, were out of the inning. It's such a small thing, and I can't imagine that Lourdes Gurriel or whoever it was who tries to throw the runner at third base is really thinking about that when he makes that decision. But he really should. In making the decision to mitigate damage and not try to the hero ball play, Dalton Varsho probably saved at least one run, maybe two, in a game that the Blue Jays would go on to win by 1 run. It didn't feel like the most consequential play in the game at the time, but looking back at it, it might have been the difference between taking 1 out of 2 in your opening series and getting swept in your opening series. And that kind of thing can snowball into who knows how much and makes how much of a difference in the clubhouse. I don't even know. But we never have to know, because Dalton Varsho, in one split-second moment decision, showed why he is a different outfielder than Lourdes Gurriel Jr. was. And I'm excited about that. I'd now like to just skip ahead to the third game of this series and talk about Chris Bassett's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad start. It's important to understand that Chris Bassett has never before in his entire career, which is now fairly significant, he's got more than 100 starts at the big league level, he has never once given up 4 home runs in a start until today. In his post-game comments, he said that he has never once had a situation where 6 of his pitches are all being hit hard. This points to this game possibly being an outlier, we hope. Oh God, do we hope. Because yeah, any situation where your starting pitcher gives up 9 runs doesn't really give you much of a chance to win that game. Sometimes your starting pitcher has a bad game and puts you out of the game right away, and that was this. That's baseball for you. Sometimes your good guys perform poorly, sometimes your iffy guys perform great. Over the course of 162, true talent will bear out. So yes, Chris Bassett had a terrible outing, and hopefully this is just a blip on the road to an otherwise very good season. That'd be swell. TLDR, I'm not going to worry too much about this. Let's just wipe our hands of it and move on. If this becomes a trend, maybe you worry about it, but even great pitchers have crappy outings from time to time. Lots of really great pitchers got knocked around in the opening week of the season, as happens every season. Sometimes it takes some guys longer to get warmed up than others. We'll see. Time will tell, but I'm not too concerned about this one. That is the good and the bad, and then we get to the rubber game, which was the middle game, which we have to talk about now. In my opinion, this game is the one that hurts for obvious reasons. So what happens here was the Blue Jays had like a jillion hits a couple days before. They're feeling good about themselves. The offense is clicking. Their approach at the plate is working. And then Jack Flaherty comes out and he can't find the strike zone. I mean it. He gave up something like 7 or 8 walks in the game and plus hit a batter. I mean, like, it was absurd. It was to the point where you kind of wonder, is this guy going to get out of the first or second inning? But a funny thing happened on the way to the blowout. The Blue Jays forgot to get a hit with runners in scoring position. The most egregious offender here is Brandon Belt, because it feels like everyone else was taking free walks onto the base paths, and Belt was just up there swinging away at garbage, striking out with runners in scoring position. He had the bases loaded his first time. He had 2 on the second time, leaving a bunch of ducks out there in the pond. Not a great look. Meanwhile, on the mound for the Jays, Kevin Gausman was dealing, having an absolutely textbook Kevin Gausman start. He was able to induce weak contact. He got a lot of swing and miss on his splitter. Everything was textbook. Exactly what you're hoping for from your number 2 guy. Looking for a series win right off the jump. Being able to go 2-0 on St. Louis in St. Louis for the opening weekend, oh, that would have been so sweet, and it was in our hand. But then, a ground ball with runners on to our most sure-handed fielder, Matt Chapman, turns into this terrible unnecessary error that scores runs, and the Blue Jays never recovered from it because they had all this traffic, all these free base runners that Flaherty just kept trying to hand them runs, and they wouldn't take it. They just couldn't get a hit at all. In a situation where you've got your second best pitcher and he's dealing, and the opposing pitcher is just giving up free walks all day, you gotta win that game. When your opposition, who is a very good team otherwise, is trying to hand the thing to you, you gotta win that game. That's the one that really hurts, because sometimes your good pitchers are gonna have stinkers. That's just the nature of the game. But when your good pitcher gives you a good outing and gives you a good chance to win, if you're a team that has aspirations of winning 90-plus games, those are gimmies. You gotta get those. Those are free throws. You gotta make them. So missing that middle game, that was the one that hurts. Getting blown out, that happens from time to time. Winning a hilarious back and forth squeaker, you hope that happens a lot. That's fun too. But having that game where it's in your grasp, where all you have to do is get one clutch hit from a lineup designed to get those kind of clutch hits, and you can't even get one, That stings. That's the one that you want back. So not exactly the series opening that we were hoping for, really. I think you look at those offensive numbers and you look at who the starting pitchers were for them and you think, oh, they definitely took 2 or 3 or maybe even swept that series. No, because context matters. It doesn't matter if you score 10 runs in one game if you score 0 the next day. You didn't average 5, you scored 10 and then got shut out. Those are very different things. And then today's game, the series ender game, that was really ugly to watch. I didn't have a whole lot of fun with that one. It was nice that the lower end of the order got some hits to drive in some runs to make them feel good, I guess. But on the whole, yeah, not a whole lot of positives to take away from that one. So, not the start we all wanted, but not exactly a disaster either. Lots to like about the series, lots of guys getting hot starts. You feel like you kind of do those same offensive performances against Kansas City, and we're going to roll just fine. Speaking of, a 4-game set in Kansas City might be just what the doctor ordered. You're not playing the St. Louis Cardinals anymore, guys. You're playing a not very good Kansas City Royals team. I think you're looking for 3 out of 4 here. I think that's the goal. Hey, if you take 3 out of 4, then you go into the Anaheim series above 500 and everything's fine. So let's just stay focused on that. And you're trying to do that while having Jose Barrios and Yusei Kikuchi on the mound for the first 2 games. I still feel like that's an attainable goal. So let's split those and then have Manoah and Gausman do their thing for the back half of the series and take this thing home. Like let's not mess around anymore, fellas. Let's do this thing. These games count, by the way. I'm not sure if anyone's made that abundantly clear to you. These ones count. You want to win these. These are, yeah, we want these. Finally, shout out to Nathan Lucas, who got into a couple of these games as a pinch runner with his family all there. That's a lovely story. I always love to see that. That's a great moment. It'd be nice if he got an at-bat, maybe during the Kansas City series when the stakes maybe are a little bit lower, if the score is a little bit out of proportion. I really got to stop talking about it like it's a fait accompli. It's still a Major League Baseball team, right? I mean, baseball can happen. The Blue Jays might get swept here. I really hope that doesn't happen. That would be disaster. Anyway, Nathan Lucas, hope he gets an at-bat. Seems like a good kid who's 28 years old, so not a kid at all. But you know what I'm saying. All right, so that's it for this one. We will see you all at the end of the Kansas City series. Barrios, Kikuchi, Manoah, Gausman. Should be a one-sided affair. But of course, baseball sometimes is good at baseball, so it might not be at all. We will see. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe if you are so inclined. I will see you later.